Good afternoon and welcome to the April 20th, 2020 meeting of the Gaston County Board of Education. I'm Brent Moore, Chairman of the Board, coming to you live from the boardroom at Central Office. Hope everyone is staying home, being safe, and staying healthy. Due to COVID-19 and the state and local orders which limit the number of people who gather and the guidance that citizens should stay at home, my colleagues of the board are using technology and joining this meeting remotely, much like our students and teachers are doing. The meeting of the board will look a little different, but it is important that we meet to discuss business of educating our students and supporting our employees. Here in the boardroom for this meeting is Superintendent Booker and our board clerk, Mrs. Dana Loalto. Thank you. At this time, I would like Ms. Loalto to call roll for each board member to unmute themselves and respond.
Vice Chairman Kevin Collier. Vice Chairman Kevin Collier. Lee Dedman.
Present.
Justin Davis.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm here.
Terry Ushery.
Hello, everybody. I'm alive and well.
Steve Hall.
I'm here.
Dot Guthrie.
Online.
Jeff Ramsey.
Good afternoon, I'm here.
Dot Cherry.
Hello, everybody. I'm here.
And let me recall Vice Chairman Kevin Collier.
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Father God, we just pause in these hectic and busy times to thank you. To thank you for being in control when we can't see control. Knowing that you are above all pandemics, natural disasters, whatever may we face, you're above it. We ask that you be with us today in a special way. Guide this board. Help them to make decisions and to remember for the betterment of all students. We just praise you and thank you and ask that you continue to bring your healing powers to this world. Amen. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
And to the republic the United States of America.
one nation,
Under
under
God,
God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
under God.
God, liberty and justice for all.
Our next order of business is to adopt the agenda. You have a proposed agenda before you. Do I hear a motion to adopt the agenda?
I make a motion, Steve Hall.
Mr. Hall first. Second, Mr. Devon. All in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, go ahead, Danny. Go ahead. Yeah. All right, and it's carried. It's unanimous. Our next order of business is to hear good news happening in our school. Superintendent Booker, give us some good news.
Thank you. Even though we're not able to do our meeting like we normally would and have the students here with us, we have some students that we felt are worthy of some recognition. You all are familiar with the Questbridge Scholarship. We've had a number of students win that award, and this year for the class of 2020 from South Point High School, Christian Pinto has been selected to be part of the Questbridge program. And this is a very impressive full tuition scholarship to Washington and Lee University. So that's an excellent honor for Christian Pinto and the whole South Point family. So congratulations for that Questbridge scholarship. North Gaston High School has two students, Colton Ray and Dylan Roddy, who are part of our career and technical education program. And you know, we would typically be having a signing day this spring to celebrate that. Well, they have been hired as full-time employees by GSM Services after doing their internship with the company. So I wanted to make the board aware. This is further evidence of how our CTE program is thriving even in this trying times. So congratulations to Colton Ray and Dylan Roddy of North Gaston High School. Several of you attended last month's Webb Street 5th Annual Art of Fashion Show. Just wanted to let you know they raised more than $17,000 that's going to go towards the renovation of the gym. It included 50 of their students participating in the event, as long as professional models and fashion designers from throughout the whole Charlotte region. This year's theme was the Night Circus, and it had a tent made in the gym. It was really an exciting event. So we appreciate the community support and always making that such a great success. This is one that is always impressive. We have a student from Stuart W. Kramer High School, Mary Elizabeth Martin, who earned a perfect score of 800 on the reading portion of the SAT. And she also scored a 750 on the math portion. So in addition to that fantastic honor, she was a finalist in the National Merit Foundation, which recognizes the top 1% of students in the class of 2020. She is now eligible for a full ride scholarship to the University of Alabama. So we wanted to congratulate Mary Elizabeth Martin. And then our last good news was one that just shows how our students can overcome a lot of things. Stanley Middle School sixth grader Abigail Stephens, placed first in the environmental science category at the North Carolina Student Academy of Science Fair. She did this through a Zoom call, much like we're doing today, meeting with the science fair judges. Her family raises sheep, and her project was titled, "What Type of Container Best Preserves Sheep Feed?" Diane Baxter is the science fair coordinator at Stanley Middle, and Ms. Baxter did a great job of working with Abigail and providing guidance for her to be able to compete in this. That's quite an accomplishment when you think about what all that's gone on in this time for her to be able to do that. So we wanted to take time to recognize Abigail Stephens from Stanley Middle School. So those 5 are things that we thought were worth recognizing as we celebrate our students this month of April. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Booker. Our next item on our agenda allows an opportunity for public expression. We have included in our notice of this meeting and on the posted agenda an email address for the public to send comments. Ms. Lowelto, do we have any comments from the public?
Chairman Moore, no one signed up for public expression this month.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on. We do not have any comments. The next item on the agenda is the approval and corrections from our last meetings. Today, we are asking for the approval of the minutes from the March 16th, 2020 regular meeting and the March 31st, 2020 emergency meeting. I need a motion to approve those minutes as presented.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve these two regular and emergency meetings.
Thank you, Mr. Ramsey. You get a second?
Mr. Chairman, Steve Hall, I'll make a second that.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. Yeah, Ms. Lowelto, we'll let you call.
Okay, so
the roll.
I will call for approval from other board members. Vice Chairman Kevin Collier. Vice Chairman Kevin Collier, do you approve the minutes?
Yes.
Okay. Lee Dedman.
Ma'am.
Justin Davis.
Yes.
Terry Ushery.
Ma'am.
Dot Guthrie.
Yes.
And Dot Cherry.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, and it is carried. The next item on the agenda is our classroom moment. At each of our meetings during the school year, we like to permit this time on the agenda to highlight some good work going on in our classrooms. Even though these unusual times are keeping our students and teachers at home, we still have learning taking place and good things to report. Superintendent Booker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. We all enjoy having students here and teachers to show what's going on in our classrooms. And obviously, it's a different time, but I still felt it was worthy of us taking a moment to acknowledge some of the things that are going on in these times. Our schools are using various forms of online platforms to communicate with students and their parents. A great example of this is going on at Gardner Park Elementary. Each morning at 8:30, Principal Jamie Wallace and Assistant Principal DJ Hamrick make it a routine to get on Facebook, and they greet the students, lead the Pledge of Allegiance, give out any announcements such as birthday celebrations or just things that they know have gone on in the community, and just welcome everybody to the day to try and simulate as much of the going on at Gardner Park that would happen on any other school day. You may have seen one of our teachers was featured by the governor in one of his tweets, and it was off of an article that appeared in the Gazette. Yorkchester Middle School media specialist Faith Huff, who's using Instagram to conduct and read story times with her students. And so she's continuing to show her students how important literacy is, and as well as keeping some engagement and them seeing her. So we applaud that. We have a group of teachers who read an article from another state where they were using their 3D printers to support healthcare workers. So as many of you know, the masks have straps around the ears and can cause a lot of tension if you're wearing it 8 and 12-hour days. And so they can create a little clip that spreads those and takes some of the tension off. And so we have a group that has been working to make these straps and sharing them through Caramont for that. So it's a great use of our technology, the 3D printers, and also civic engagement. So it's a really neat thing that's gone on. One of the things that we had highlighted in an earlier just communication to you all is that Tryon School this year, and I know that's a perfect place to learn, isn't it, Mr. Ustry? They had been doing a positive science campaign, and it was really neat. And so when they were giving out the first work packets, they had signs up in the windows encouraging the students, but they've continued that, and as they've gone to the online format, the students have been reaching out, and they have now received signs of encouragement from every state, as well as some foreign countries, including Japan, England, Argentina, and Canada. So they're creative, they offer words of encouragement or inspirational quotes, and just positive messages for the students. So I thought that was a really interesting one that had been shared. This goes out to all of our schools who really picked up the mantle right before spring break, and we have distributed over 8,000 Chromebooks to support our students. And so we appreciate the families being able to come by and pick them up, but also for the schools that have worked with them. We have today with us an instructional technology facilitator supporting this Zoomcast. That whole department is offering 3 virtual professional development sessions during the day for students, and more than 2,100 staff members have signed up. And they are also maintaining office hours to offer technology support. So we appreciate the work that's going on. And I saved the one that is getting enough, that's never going to get enough press. So I like to talk about it every time I have an opportunity, and that's our grab-and-go meal program. This is another extension of the classroom. We know how important the lunchroom is in our students' social life and, well, all of the relationships that go on in the cafeteria lunch line. But these workers have stepped up now, and as of Friday, over 200,000 meals have been served to our community by our school nutrition. So this is just an example of how in challenging times people step up and work really hard. And so there are a lot of frontline workers that we owe thanks to: nurses, doctors, our first responders that are walking into the face of this. But I believe those folks are right there with them for what they have done and are continuing to do. And so we thank them. That's just a few examples. I could go on for a lot. Each of the schools has got neat things happening. And we just want to make sure that our staff knows we appreciate so much that in these trying times, they didn't fold tent. They formed a beachhead and are continuing to move forward. And our students are the benefit of that, as well as our community, with the way our nutrition staff is stepping in. So we thank all of them for their work at this time. That's the classroom moment.
Thank you, Dr. Booker. Our next item on the agenda is Teacher Appreciation Week proclamation, and this is an action item. We have Mr. Todd Higgins.
Good afternoon, Chairman Moore, Vice Chairman Collier, members of the board, and Superintendent Booker. May 4th through the 8th is National Teacher Appreciation Week, and school districts and education organizations across the country are taking time to celebrate teachers and thank them for the incredible job they do each day. And at this time, it is a pleasure to present to you the Teacher Appreciation Week proclamation for Gaston County Schools. It reads, whereas Gaston County Schools is proud to join other school districts and education organizations across the country in celebrating Teacher Appreciation Week, May 4th through the 8th, and National Teacher Day on Tuesday, May 5th. And whereas we realize that Teacher Appreciation Week and National Teacher Day are among the most important annual observances because they bring attention to the teaching profession, which is worthy of honor, praise, respect, and recognition. And whereas there are more than 1,900 teachers in Gaston County Schools, and they go beyond expectations each day to ensure that children learn, discover, grow, and thrive in a safe and caring environment. And whereas we do not have to look any further than the current coronavirus pandemic to see how teachers go the extra mile to support students and their families, which is a prime example of our teachers' unwavering commitment to the education profession. And whereas we are extremely grateful for the teachers and other education professionals in Gaston County Schools who are responsible for inspiring success and a lifelong love for learning in our students. Now therefore be it resolved to honor all teachers for their important contribution to our schools and steadfast efforts to positively influence the leaders of tomorrow. The Gaston County Board of Education is proud to proclaim the week of May 4th through the 8th, 2020, Teacher Appreciation Week in Gaston County Schools, and encourages students, parents, school employees, and others to express their appreciation for our teachers. Be it further resolved that this proclamation be made a part of the minutes of the Board of Education, adopted this the 20th day of April 2020. And Mr. Chairman, this is the Teacher Appreciation Week proclamation that is being presented to you today for consideration and approval.
Thank you, Mr. Higgins. This is an action item. I need a
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the proclamation as written.
I'll second.
Ms. Cherry,
Go ahead.
Mr. Davis. Ms. Lovato, would you like to call?
Vice Chairman Kevin Collier. Chairman Kevin Collier, do you approve the proclamation?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Lee Dedman,
Yes.
Terry Ushery,
Yes, ma'am.
Steve Hall,
Yes.
Dot Guthrie,
Yes.
and Mr. Jeff Ramsey.
Yes.
Thank
And I'd
you.
just like to make a comment. I just wanted to personally thank for all these teachers, staff, and everybody in the cabinet, Mr. Booker, Dr. Booker, and his staff. Through these difficult times that we've been able to step up and try to get as much learning we can as a visual learner. And it's been a trying time for all of us, but it's our teachers that makes the big difference in the classrooms. Thanks.
Any other comments?
Just ditto that.
All right. Our next item on the agenda is the National School Library Month proclamation. This is also an action item. And Mr. Higgins.
It is a pleasure to present to the board the proclamation for your consideration and approval to celebrate National School Library Month in Gaston County Schools. And at this time, I would like to read the proclamation. Whereas each year since 1985, the month of April has been designated National School Library Month in an effort to celebrate school libraries and bring attention to the significant role they play in public education. And whereas the theme for this year's observance is Find Your Place at the Library, with an emphasis on how school libraries transform learning for students and empower them to discover, understand, and gain knowledge for their use and benefit. And whereas the school library is intended to serve as the heart of a school by offering books, technology, and many other resources that connect students with information and give teachers what they need to provide an engaging learning environment for students. And whereas we are extremely proud of our librarians and media center coordinators in Gaston County Schools who work diligently to make the library a fun, inviting, and special place for reading, exploring ideas, working together, and fostering personal growth. Now therefore be it resolved that the Gaston County Board of Education is pleased to join other boards of education across the United States in proclaiming April 2020 as National School Library Month, and encourages the citizens of Gaston County to join in the celebration of National School Library Month by promoting the importance of having libraries in our schools and in our community. Be it further resolved that this proclamation be made a part of the minutes of the Board of Education adopted this the 20th day of April 2020. And Mr. Chairman, this proclamation is before you for consideration and approval.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, ma'am.
all of you knew that I was going to chime in at this time. I gladly, I make this motion that we accept the proclamation proclaiming National Library Month here in Gaston County as well as throughout the United States. And I also am very pleased to see the theme, Find Your Place at the Library. I was pleased to see the article it said where the librarian at York Chester did find her place via Instagram and storytelling to enhance learning. So yes, we are playing a very vital role during these difficult days. So I am very, very happy to make this motion, and I hope that my colleagues will all approve gladly.
Thank you, Ms. Guthrie.
Second.
Second, Ms. Cherry.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir. Mr.
I
Usher.
want to pay tribute to Mr. Sean Hubers, principal at Cherryville Elementary School, for the fine job that he has done in establishing the library or the media center as the learning hub of the school and setting a fine model for others to follow.
Thank you, Mr. Usher.
I would like to call the vote for the National School Library Month proclamation. Vice Chairman Kevin Collier,
Yes.
Lee Dedman,
Yes, ma'am.
Justin Davis,
Yes.
and Terry Ushery,
Enthusiastic.
Steve Hall,
Yes.
yes, Jeff Ramsey.
Yes.
Thank you, and motion carries.
Any other?
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? All right. Thank you, Mr. Higgins. Our next item on the agenda is Exceptional Children's and School Choice Instructional Resources Update. This is an information item, and we have Ms. Carrie Minnich, Executive Director of Exceptional Children, and Denise McLean, Executive Director of Student Support Services. They will be joining us on Zoom.
Hi, Chairman Moore, Superintendent Booker, members of the board. Thank you so much for allowing Denise and I to have a little time with you this afternoon to talk to you about some of the resources we use to provide exceptional service to the students of Gaston County Schools. I'd like to begin the presentation tonight by giving you a brief overview of the budget for the Department for Exceptional Children. We received between $32 and $33 million in funding each school year. And as you can tell from this pie chart, about 85% of that is spent on salary and benefits, for staff that work directly for Gaston County Schools. Another 12.5% is used on contracted services, which is what I'm here to talk to you about tonight. However, I did want to point out a couple of things before we started. One is that with the exception of one of the contracts we'll discuss, all of them are actually providing direct services to our students. So it's adding to that personnel pot of money that we use to meet their unique needs. And then we have that remaining 2% that serves a very small percentage of our budget and covers things like staff development, travel, materials, things like that. Another item that I want to be sure to share with you is that all of the contracts that we're going to talk about today are contracts that we currently have with these providers as well. So we would like to extend them into next year, but we have a good history with these companies and we get very good feedback on the service they provide for us. So I'd like to begin by talking about our speech services. We contract with Speech Center, Edu Healthcare, and Cobb Pediatrics to provide services for our students that involve things like hiring speech language pathologists, occupational therapists, school psychologists, visually impaired teachers, sign language interpreters. These are all very hard to fill positions, and we have a lot of difficulty finding enough of these service providers to hire directly in Gaston County Schools. So all three of these companies do an excellent job helping us fill that need. They also provide access to a variety of professional development opportunities and courses that they share with all of our related services staff. So our contract amounts are Speech Center, $750,000, Edu Healthcare, $750,000, and Cobb Pediatrics, $700,000. Those amounts are simply divided out based on their ability to provide the number of service providers we need. We try to divide it out evenly among three businesses. The next item to discuss is our developmental day funds. These are funds that are available through the State Board of Education to assist in providing services to children with disabilities who are placed in a licensed developmental day center. So the funds for us in Gaston County Schools are used to provide services to students at Webb Street School. That contract amount is about $300,000 each year. The next item is community residential funds. This is a partnership with the Department for Public Instruction as well. And this assists us in providing services to children with disabilities that are placed in an approved residential center. So Gaston County Schools partners with Holy Angels to provide services using these funds, and those students attend Webb Street School as well. Our contract amount there is $325,000. The next item is Equalize Vision Services. They provide orientation and mobility services to our visually impaired children. This includes travel skills for safety and independence. They teach our children how to use canes and electronic travel aids. As the students get older, they sometimes work with them out in the community to make sure that they learn how to navigate grocery stores, gas stations, different things like that. And this service requires a very specific certification that our visually impaired teachers do not have. So we contract with Equalize to provide that service for us. And that contract amount is about $15,000. The service amount roughly equals about maybe a half a day of service a week that is needed. So they are not with us as often as a lot of service providers. I'd next like to talk about Language Line Solutions. Language Line provides face-to-face interpretation in American Sign Language and spoken languages for us. They are available on short notice to serve students directly in schools or to facilitate interpretation at IEP meetings to provide for full parental participation. I do want to assure you that we really try hard to fill all of this need with our sign language interpreters in the campus, but because most of them are assigned to students specifically, sometimes it's difficult to pull them for the odd things or for a football game We had interpreters with us at Gaston for our parents that needed that service to make sure that everybody could understand what was happening around them. Our contract amount with them is about $25,000. The next contract I'd like to talk about is our contract with the Division of Health and Human Services, Voc Rehab. They provide services to students aged 14 to adults. They participate in IEP meetings with us. They provide pre-employment transition services. They complete educational, psychological, and most importantly, vocational evaluations for our students. They connect students to job coaching agencies and to agencies for supported employment. And then they also collaborate with us to hold community resource events. And in addition, they provide financial support for eligible clients that have work-based needs. And our contract amount with the Division of Voc Rehab is $55,000. PCG education, I know is probably familiar to many of you from presentations in the past. This is the one contract that does not have a person directly working with the students. However, their program helps in many ways. It helps us with special funds management so that we can receive funding through medical reimbursement, fee-for-service, cost reporting. And we last year generated $2.5 million in revenue through these special fund management. So we are very grateful that they allow us a platform. The program also helps with case management. It is used for students with IEPs and 504 plans. It allows ease in generating reports that we need for the state and to share with parents. And it provides the same services, that plan that is specific for each child through MTSS, our multi-tiered system of support early warning system, which helps teachers plan for that core instruction and create their tier plans that are so important for their students. The contract amount for PCG is about $500,000, but I think it's important to note that about $300,000 to $350,000 of that will be money that we pay them as a result of that $2.5 million we bring in for cost reporting. We pay them 13% of that revenue. So the biggest portion of that contract amount is based on the amount of money that they help us bring in through that program. Support Incorporated provides individualized adult support services for our students. They help us serve our students that might have behavioral needs or students with basic life skill needs who need that special person with them 24 hours a day, or at least the 8 hours that they are with us at school. And that support does often extend into the home after school, where parents use community support money to provide that. And our contract with Support Incorporated each year is roughly $1 million. I am now going to turn it over to Denise McLean, but I will be here to answer any questions at the end of the presentation.
Good afternoon. And under Student Support Services, there are actually two programs that support our school choice programs. The first one is the Leader in Me program. This program prepares our students to be prepared for college, helps them to be leaders in our community, and teaches them to be global citizens. Participating schools are Carr Elementary, Costner Elementary, W.C. Friday, and North Gaston. This is the second year of implementation. Again, it provides good research-based professional development for our teachers and administrators. They have an opportunity to work with other Leader in Me schools around this region in North Carolina and actually around the world. This program prepares, again, students to be global citizens, leaders in their community. It's also based on Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It is a world-renowned leadership program, and our students were very successful implementing the Leader in Me program last year. This contract amount is for $113,586.48. The second program that supports the school choice program is the Project Lead the Way. Again, this program focuses on teaching our teachers to create very engaging, real-world, hands-on classrooms or learning environments for our students. Schools participating: Bessemer City High School, Middle School, East Gaston High School, and Hunter Huss High School. Students gain skills in applying learning experiences. What they learn, they really get to apply it in a simulated real-world situation. They work with in-demand knowledge leaders in the industry, companies like Toyota or companies like Verizon. This is the second year that our teachers have had training implementing the Project Lead the Way model, as well as it provides good training for teachers and administrators. It focuses on the areas of engineering, biomedical, and computer science. This contract amount is for $23,866. Again, this concludes our information on the Exceptional Children's and the Instructional Resources information.
Do we have any questions? No questions, comments?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am, Ms. Guthrie.
can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
I don't have a question, but I do have a comment. I certainly like the way the Leader and Me program is being implemented in our schools. I think Ms. Duncan has done a superb job with her students and the way they use those principles in the program. So it's certainly worth all of the money that we have invested in the program. And I think it does so much for our students to help them build those leadership skills that they will need later on as they enhance their life skills. So that would be the one thing that I would, like to say in regards to the Leader and Me program in our district.
Thank you, Ms. Guthrie. Anyone else? All right. That was an information item. Thank you guys for presenting. And our next item on the agenda is Innovative Partnership Grant for Warlick Academy. And this is an action item. And this will be presented by Ms. Denise McLean.
Thank you. Chairman Moore, Vice Chairman Collier, Superintendent Dr. Booker, and members of the board. Thank you for this opportunity to share information about the Warlick Innovative Partnership Grant, referred to as IPG. As you will recall, we presented this item earlier this fall when we applied for the grant. We were not awarded, but we were given an opportunity to apply this spring, so that's what this presentation is in preparation for. So I would like to update you on the grant. This is a state program to provide schools who've been identified as a school in comprehensive need. This is part of the comprehensive support and improvement. It operates very much like a school improvement grant. The goal is to improve student achievement and also to raise the graduation rate. The grant requires us to hire an IPG school coach. This person will work very closely with the principal in directing them and helping them to meet the requirements of the grant. We also must select an approved educational partnership, and we have selected to work with University of Virginia and Darden School of Education. We must implement research-based school improvement strategies. We're required to track data, and we already have a plan to work very closely with our accountability department to help us report and track the data for the grant. Staff members, that's teachers and administrators, are required to participate in professional development. And then finally, we will be required to participate in state visits as well as submit monthly reports on our progress. This grant award amount is for $1.5 million. That's over 3 years. And finally, the timeline is that the grant application is actually due this Friday, April 24th. The grant award notice would be made sometime this spring. Early July, we must have the coach hired and in process of helping to facilitate the grant, as well as planning and professional development this summer with preparations to fully implement at the start of this year. Again, wanted to share this item for your consideration. And this concludes our presentation.
Thank you, Ms. McLean. Do we have any questions?
Is this a certified position, the IPG coach?
Yes, ma'am.
Does that require certification?
It does require one to have an administrative license, actually.
Oh, okay. And it doesn't matter the field?
No, ma'am. In terms of other degrees, it does not. However, they must have a school administration certification.
I see. Thank you.
Good. Ms. McLean, does that certification, just the certification, or do they have to have some experience in administration?
Yes, ma'am. They should have they have to have the experience as well.
Okay.
Having worked as an assistant principal, or even to have worked in some leadership capacity.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, when did you say this position had to be filled?
We required, when the information was shared with us earlier this year, back in January, they gave us a date of July that the person must be in place. Now, in light of everything that we're going through, the only updated timeline we received was that the grant is now due on the 24th of April, wherein earlier it was due near the end of March. So that's the only adjustment to the timeline that we've received thus far.
So would in-house professionals have the opportunity, or is this something that was advertised outside of the district?
No, ma'am, we've not done any advertisement for the position yet. We're waiting to see if the grant would be awarded to us, and that we should find out sometime this spring. Once that is done, then we'll go through the process of advertising and interviewing for the position.
Okay, thank you.
So you need our approval to go ahead and go forward with all of this, correct? Then I'd like to make a motion that we accept what's written so that you can proceed with the process.
And I second that motion.
All right. We have a first and a second.
Okay, so I'd like to call for the vote of the IPG grant. Vice Chairman Kevin Collier. Vice Chairman Kevin Collier.
Yes.
Lee Dedman.
Yes, ma'am.
Justin Davis.
Yes.
Terry Ushery.
Yes, ma'am.
Steve Hall.
Yes.
Jeff Ramsey.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, and this motion carries.
All right. Thank you, Ms. McLean.
It is a good one, Ms. McLean.
I like that.
Thank you. Our next item on the agenda is Gaston Early College High School 2020 and 2021 calendar. This is an action item, and Mr. Joey Clinton, Executive Director of Human Resources.
Good afternoon, Chairman Moore, Vice Chairman Collier, Superintendent Booker, and board members. I would like to present for action the 2020-2021 calendar for Gaston Early College. The Early College calendar up for adoption meets the requirements for Senate Bill 187 that governs calendar requirements for all LEAs in North Carolina. The only flexibility given to the early college as opposed to traditional school settings is the flexibility on the start and end dates. And if you will look on pages 28 through 30 in the board book, you will see the draft calendar for the early college calendar. And you can see there that the beginning date is August 10th and the end date is May 21st, which is slightly different than our traditional calendar that we have for the upcoming school year. All other areas of Senate Bill 187 are monitored, such as the hours of instruction, which is one we always pay lots of attention to. The hours of instruction to meet the standard for Senate Bill 187 is at least 1,025 hours. The Gaston Early College calendar has 1,050 hours of instruction built into it. Also, there are 10 annual leave days, which are required by the state, and also the 215 days for contracted certified employees. It's also built into the calendar. This is an action item, and obviously we have to look at the early college's calendar every year because it coincides with Gaston College's calendar. And in order to meet the demands and the needs of our students, we have to work, or Principal Allen works in cooperation with the administration of the Gaston College to come up with a calendar that best meets what the students are trying to gain.
Thank you, Mr. Clinton. Have any questions?
I'm gonna make a motion that we accept the draft calendar as written.
Thank you, Mr. Cherry.
Second.
Second, Mr. Ramsey.
Yes.
All right.
Okay, we'd like to call the vote for the Gaston Early College High School 2021 school calendar. Vice Chairman Kevin Collier.
Yes.
Lee Dedman. Lee Dedman.
Turn your mute.
Lee Dedman. Do you approve the Gaston Early College calendar?
Push your button, sir.
Thumbs up.
Thumbs up.
No, thumbs up.
You've muted yourself.
Thumbs up, okay, okay. Justin Davis,
Yes.
Terry Ushery,
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
Steve Hall. Do you see him?
This is hard.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Still pushing buttons.
Dot Guthrie?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, and that motion carries.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Clinton. Our next item on the agenda is the 2020-2021 Gaston County Schools Budget Request. This is an action item as well, and we have Mr. Gary Hoskins, Associate Superintendent.
I thought I unmuted. What I hit, Chair? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
I'm sorry. Earlier this week, each of you should have received a copy of the Board of Education budget request for 2021. Last month, we went over the budget request, the superintendent's budget request in detail. After this will be an action item, we'll be asking for approval of this budget. Once it is approved, we will need to deliver this to the to the county commissioners by May 15th. And we'll have to decide how best to do that. In the past, we've done it. We've had a joint meeting with our Board of Education and the county commissioners, but of course we're in a different environment, but we will have to deliver that by May 15th. At that point, it'll be in the hands of the county, And also we'll be waiting on a state budget. We'll see what the state does. Of course, this will be the second year of a biennial budget. And of course, they have not yet approved a formal budget for the current year. So we'll see what happens in the coming year. So with any budget, we have internal and external factors that will impact the budget. Obviously, typically the internal and external factors do not change from year to year, but obviously we've had some major changes this year. First of all, the COVID-19, the impact of the COVID-19, the uncertainty of how long it's going to last, the impact that it's had on education, as well as tax revenues, which affect our budget, as well as the economy in general. Those are some very big external factors that will have some kind of impact on our budget. We just don't know to what degree. And also, as always, we do have the impact of inflation is trending at about 2%. And of course, changes in laws and changes in student population trends. The internal factors that we have, changing compensation, what our peer group is paying teachers and other educators, as well as other industries are paying, facilities personnel, bus drivers, etc. The expanded choice opportunities that we now have, and also the remote learning has become a big part of what how we're educating our kids right now, and how that transitions into what we do going forward. So in our operating request, we have our ongoing expenditures and our new initiatives. And our ongoing expenditures, which we have going on right now this year, is $50.3 million in local funds. That funds our school maintenance, our utilities, technology, our magnet programs, etc. And in addition to that, we have our expansion requests. And we have two items, our ongoing expenditures and our new initiatives. And we talked in detail about each of these items at the last board meeting, so I'll just hit some of the highlights this time. The ongoing expenditures totals $1.3 million. The first item on there is state mandated increase in employer paid benefits. This is what DPI has already told us that they're planning to do. They're planning to take our employer portion of our retirement contribution from 19.7% this year to 21.44% next year, and also the employer portion of our health insurance from about $6,300 a month or a year, month, to $6,600. Also, replacing end-of-life mobile devices. Every year we replace about 20% of our mobile devices. We're budgeting about just over $1 million for this next year. Teacher assistants, we've talked several times about increasing the number of days for our teacher assistants from the current 200-day calendar to a 215-day calendar. That will cost about $310,000 in local money. But it will give some additional support to our teachers and instructional personnel, as they prepare for our children in the classrooms. And then finally, inflation, we're projecting that to be about 2%. Our new initiatives are about $1,625,000. Every year for about the past 4 or 5 years, the Board of Commissioners, the county commissioners, has increased our local salary supplement by about $500,000 per year. We're going to be asking for that again this year. They've done a great job of helping improve the local teacher salary supplements over the last 4 or 5 years. But we continue to trend near the bottom of our peer group when we look at other school districts and what they pay their teachers for salary supplements. Also, our employee compensation, both classified and certified, that will track whatever the state does. And we're not sure what the state's going to do. We've got budgeted here 3% for the classified, 4% for certified, but we'll follow any changes in compensation that the state may give to our employees. And this is, again, the local impact of that. Our clerical custodial allotment increase, we're asking for 3.5 positions really for front office in our elementary schools, and about 10.5 positions for our custodial staff, split among 32 schools to try to raise the level of customer service and the cleanliness and attractiveness of our schools. Also, our College and Career Promise program has been very popular over the last 3, 4, 5 years. And because it's popular, it's free to our students, but we pay for those programs out of local money. So that's why we're asking for some additional money there. And finally, our A+ program for 3 elementary schools. Right now, we currently do that for Best Elementary, and we're proposing to add Pinewood and Ida Rankin elementary schools to the A+ designation program, and that's an arts-infused program. So last year, our request to the county commissioners was almost $52.5 million. This year, our request is $53.2 million. So what we're asking for is about $2.9 million or $1.2 million less than last year's money. We currently receive $50.3 million, and we're asking for $53.3 million. So in addition to our operating request, we will have a capital request, and we currently have our school bonds, which provides for new construction, capital replacements. You probably saw a lot of roofing contracts and other contracts on the consent agenda. That's being funded from school bonds, and also capital outlay, and that's what we're talking about here, our preventative maintenance, repairs, and contracted facility services. And you can see it's for smaller roofing jobs, buying vehicles, plumbing, technology, life safety, etc. So a number of things affect the cost of our routine maintenance, the quality of our staff, quality and experience of our staff, the training, the age of our buildings. As you know, our buildings are fairly old. We refer back to this graph quite frequently. I will say that the graph shows us at 24 cents per square foot for our capital maintenance items, whereas the peer group from the Great Council on City Schools is about $1.19. This does not reflect the extra $1 million that the county commissioners gave us last year, which we're very appreciative of. This would bump us up to about 43 cents per square foot, still well below the $1.19 median for other school districts. So we have about 5.2 million square feet of building space. Our request is going to be $6.2 million in capital outlay. We currently get $2,220,000. So we're asking for $1.19 per square foot, and we currently get 43 cents per square foot. So in conclusion, we believe that this budget request does support your vision to inspire success and a lifetime of learning. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll be happy to try to address any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Hoskins. Do we have any questions?
I do have a question.
Okay, Ms. Guthrie.
Speaking of maintenance, and on page 27, you did mention the increase of clerical and custodial positions. As we look at COVID-19 and school cleaning or the necessary to do additional cleaning or inspections, will that cost more money, or do you feel like, Mr. Hoskins, the staff is appropriate for doing so?
Right now, hold on just a second, I'm sorry. We originally made this request prior to the COVID-19 impact that we're seeing. We do believe that if we're fully staffed with our custodial personnel and we add these 10 and a half custodial positions, that we will be in good shape to continue to maintain our schools in good order and address any concerns that people may have regarding the COVID-19 virus.
Ms. Guthrie, you do bring up a very valid point. We are waiting on the CDC and direction. I know one of the questions that everyone is asking is what will happen on May 15th, and what is that we have gotten no more direction, but what has been discussed in some general publications nationally is what will it require for schools to be able to operate from a spacing standpoint, from a cleanliness standpoint. So you're correct to say that that is an unforeseen and undefined thing at this time. We do know in some of the earlier monies that were shared through the governor coming back, some of that was allocated for the school nutrition programs as well as to do any one-time cleaning things that had to go on. So we will be having to watch that as we go forward.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Dedman, you have something?
I'd just like to make a motion that we accept Mr. Hodges' budget proposal and that we send it to the county commissioners as required.
Thank you, Mr. Dedman. Need a second?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Ms. Guthrie.
Okay, so I would like to call voting for the 2021 budget. Vice Chairman Kevin Collier,
Yes.
Justin Davis,
Yes.
Terry Ushery,
Yes, ma'am.
Steve Hall,
Yes.
okay, Jeff Ramsey,
Yes.
and Dot Cherry.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, and that motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Hoskins. Dr. Booker would like to say something.
I would like to point out to the members of our viewing, both the board agenda item as well as the introductory letter to the presentation of our budget by Mr. Moore that's signed by the chairman and myself. We start that letter with saying we recognize the times we are in. We recognize that a lot of budget issues will come as we're moving forward. So that is the thing that we have done as an introductory, but we have a process that is mandated by state statute that we are following. And so we have, the budget you all had worked predates all that, so we're just making note of that. We're trying to be very respectful. We know there are a lot of hard decisions that will have to be made. A lot of revenue has not been collected because sales tax, et cetera. But we as an organization needed to keep moving and showing what we need to operate schools. And as Ms. Guthrie pointed out, we will probably get mandates to us, some that will probably be funded, some may not be funded, that will cause us to have to adjust whenever we're allowed to go back to school, because this board has a long history of being the safest urban district, and we will continue to want to operate that way. I know a couple of our board members had reached out asking about certain pieces of cleaning equipment. We're fortunate we had secured some of those prior to the closure, but needing and keeping those all functioning at the right level. So I just wanted everyone to know we are not trying to be disrespectful in any means by talking about a budget at this time, but we're also following a process that's prescribed. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Booker. Our next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. There are several items on our consent agenda today. Please take a look at those items listed. And I need a motion to approve those items on the consent agenda. Mr. Ushery.
So move, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Second, Ms. Cherry.
Okay, I would like to call vote for the consent agenda. Mr. Vice Chairman Kevin Collier. Vice Chairman Kevin Collier.
Yes.
Lee Dedman. Justin Davis.
Yes.
Steve Hall.
Yes.
Dot Guthrie, Dot Guthrie,
Yes.
and Jeff Ramsey.
Yes.
Thank you, and that motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Hoskins. That brings us to a time in our meeting to hear from our superintendent. Dr. Booker, do you have any comments?
Yes, sir. Members of the board, I want to thank you for the work you've put into having this meeting. I know that earlier when Ms. McLean and Ms. Minnich were presenting, they had come over Friday as well as earlier today to make sure their technology worked. Mr. Clinton and then Mr. Hoskins, and you all have all signed in last week or either earlier today to make sure you could work. So thank you for the extra effort that has gone on to make this meeting come about. Also, our consent agenda was quite lengthy. That reflects that we have not been able to have your committee meetings. And a lot of these numbers on the committee meeting, and you saw in some of what Ms. Minnich was presenting, are smaller numbers that are well within staff's authority to move. But what we think is really important at this time is that we keep everyone as informed as we can of what is going on. And since you haven't had your committee meetings, a lot of that is there. And those are things that are really important to running the district as we move forward. So thank you for your support on those. I've shared with you last week that our school nutrition operation of Grab and Go needed to get some flexibility in preparing the meals. And so we had success with the week before our spring break where we didn't on Good Friday distribute meals. We distributed double on Thursday. So we are going to that operation now on an ongoing basis. So this week, just reminding the public, they will get 2 meals on Thursday. Again, hats off to those folks and what they're doing. I know there are a lot of people who want to know about graduation and course credits and grading and everything out there. We are still working with the state. Was on a call this morning, and we will continue. We're looking for guidance and what will be allowed to go forward. And so just be patient. And I know as a father of a college senior, it is a difficult time for seniors in particular. So I can appreciate the frustration of that. So to our parents and guardians and all those significant folks in our students' lives, thank you for supporting us and working with it. I've got a phenomenal email from a grandparent the Friday before break came in talking about what all their grandchild's teachers were doing for that student. And they were saying, since I'm running grandparent school, it's very nice to have all the support of their school. And so I just want to thank the way the community is working with us and stepping up on that. And so, Mr. Chair, I could go on a lot, but I do have one more good piece of news that really fits with the presentation of our budget. Mr. Hoskins learned over the break that ASBO has again recognized our financial reporting for Certificate of Excellence, and this marks the long-standing. I know one of the biggest pressures he had coming into the job 5 years ago was that we had been receiving that award since back in the 80s, and the department has continued that great work, and our budget is often held up as a model for how to present and then document that information. So I congratulate all of our finance department for that great work. So thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Booker. And once again, from our board, we want to say thank you for you and your team, the hard work that you've put in. Last week, we were supposed to be on break, and I talked to Dr. Booker every day, sometimes a couple of times a day, and he was working. So he hasn't got much of a break, neither has his senior staff. So we want to thank them for their hard work, and also the folks doing the Dr. Calamia and her team at the feeding centers. They've done an excellent job. If you get the opportunity, board members, to stop at one of the sites, it's really neat to stop and see what's going on there. So we have one more thing. I believe Mr. Ushery has something he'd like to share with us.
Mr. Chairman.
Can you all see that?
Steve Hall, can I say something?
Yes, sir, Steve. Let's, Mr. Ushery's got something. As soon as he gets done, I'll let you speak. Go ahead, Mr. Ushery.
Okay, thank you.
Is my
Sorry.
picture across?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right, the picture that I'm showing you is of our former Associate Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction. This gentleman is Dr. Bo Detner, and I learned that on August the 6th of 2019, Dr. Detner passed from this life to the next. He leaves behind his wife, Carolyn, children and grandchildren. He began his career in the Winston-Salem Forsyth school system, was an assistant professor of education at UNC Chapel Hill. When he entered the public schools, he started in Horry County, South Carolina. He came to Gaston in 1975, the year that I joined the Gaston County Schools. He left us to go to Winston-Salem. In 1990, when he retired from public schools, he joined the staff of Mars Hill University, where he served as a professor of education from 1990 until 2005. This gentleman was a Southern gentleman. He loved gardening, classical music. He loved particularly hymns, and I learned that he was an organist. So he and I have that in common. But just a tremendous, tremendous man. I want to write his wife to thank her for sharing Dr. Detner with us and for the impact that he had on education in this county and in this state, and certainly at my beloved alma mater. So I'm sharing that with you all, and just wanted to make you aware. This was a Gaston County man.
Thank you, Mr. Ushery. Mr. Hall?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, I just want to say, I want to thank everybody for all they've done in the school system. And I want you all to know that I'm thinking of you, and I hope you stay well. And Dr. Booker, I tried my best to find that Yankee hat to wear today, but I just couldn't find it. Y'all be safe.
Thank you, Mr. Hall.
May I say one more thing?
Yes, Ms. Guthrie.
We've heard the stories. We've heard the stories about finance. We've heard how our teachers have been innovative in making certain that our children learn the curriculum during these difficult times. I want to tell the story of how I felt on Friday when this car pulled up in front of my house and this gentleman got out and he was wearing a mask and he had a folder in his hand. And in the content, of course, I found this wonderful book, the Gaston County Schools Storybook, Their Stories. Each and every day, you tell the stories of how you use strategies, professionals to make sure that our children get the very best from you. Dr. Booker, we appreciate your leadership. We appreciate what you have done with the collaboration of our board chair, Mr. Moore, and all of my board colleagues. We're in this together. And the story is, if we unite, continue to be united, we can beat this and God will heal the land. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Guthrie. Anyone else?
Ms. Guthrie did highlight the Gaston County Storybook, which just was finished being printed at the end of last week, and it will be distributed over the next several weeks. So I want to thank Mr. Hagens and the whole communication department. That is a great piece. I had someone comment that it looked like an alumni magazine, and it really is to tell the stories of what's going on in our school, and it has some historical stories as well as a lot of current information. So look for that booklet out and about.
Anyone else? All right. Thank you for your time and attention today. We look forward to our next regular meeting, which is currently scheduled for May 18th of 2020. We do have a birthday to celebrate this afternoon. Mr. Justin Davis, he turned 30 on Saturday.
Gary, can you lead us in
before you start singing, Mr. Moore, don't get off. You had a birthday earlier this month.
I did.
Turned 32.
Turned 50. So, all right. Well, we thank everybody for zooming in today, and at this time, I needed a motion to adjourn.
Chairman.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Mr. Devon.
I'd like to make a motion, we adjourn from this
Mr. Devon.
Zoom room.
Second, Mr. Davis. And give me a thumbs up for our vote. All right. Oh, one thing I did not mention, we do not have a need to go into closed session today, so we don't have anything. So
Yay.
with that, everybody's unanimous. We'll close the meeting.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.
Stay safe.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Stay safe.
Thank you.
I forwarded it.